Welcome back to the Form is Temporary podcast. And for this Game Week 5 preview, we're going to be discussing how the last game week went, how we're looking ahead of the next game week. We've got our mini league, of course, which is always good to see how things are going in that. We're going to reflect on how our differentials got on last time around. And we, of course, will be doing the quiz, which is always good fun. But before we introduce this week's brilliant guest, Kanji is back to help me look upon the FPL musings. So, Kanji, how are you?
I'm chilling, brother. It's really, really nice to come back. This is the first time I think I'm coming onto the pod after a good week. So there's some positivity in the air, some optimism around. Hopefully it's the same for you guys as well.
Yeah, we like to hear that. Some good positivity and, hopefully some nice green arrows in amongst maybe some red ones, but we will see. But we are very pleased to say for this Game Week 5 preview, we have got on the one and only Andrew, FPL Nightmare, who, to be fair, I feel like there's no better person to give a sort of summation of the action from the weekend. It was quite a high scoring game week in the end. So Andrew, first of all, how are you, my friend?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm interested by the way you describe it as a high-scoring game week when I think 7 teams kept a clean sheet. But I suppose if you've got the common sense to go with the DEFCON daddies, then you will get a lot of big points at the weekend. I did not get big points, but I did get some points, and I finally got a green arrow. So it's a good time to come on. I feel like whenever I come on this show, Roberto, it's always something good. This time, it's my Haaland captaincy paying off, finally getting into that top 9 million after 4 weeks of struggle. And of course, last time it was when my beloved Newcastle dismantled Kanji's disgusting Liverpool team in the cup final. And we had a good little review of that. But
we certainly did.
Yeah. And now they've gone and stolen the match winner from that game. But really, who has won from that deal? I would say the jury remains out.
Yeah, well, we'll see how many more minutes, when Isak does, get that Liverpool minutes, tally up a little bit, we can kind of assess from there. But yeah, it feels weird. As you said, it feels like we always come on with great occasions in the surroundings. And I do have to quickly touch on myself and Chris. Just this Monday, actually, we had our graduation at the University of Lincoln, which was a great occasion to get our little mortar boards on and our gowns. And it was an amazing day. So yeah, massive congrats to Chris and it was really good to see everyone there and really enjoyed it. It feels like now we can join the likes of Josh and Ben from the FPL graduates in that sort of category of members of the FPL community. So yeah, really good fun.
I've got a degree as well, Roberto.
Yeah,
come on now. We made a big deal about this over the last summer when I got it, and I got a first in psychology. I was very proud. I didn't get a banana hoodie for it though.
Yeah, this is actually a personalized hoodie for those on the YouTube. I got like a special 2025 graduation hoodie just to sort of mark the occasion. To be honest, on the day, I didn't want to get the gown off. I was like, when I had to give the gown and the mortarboard back, I was very sad to see it go. So this is a nice way for it to at least sort of carry on in my sort of day-to-day routine. But we will dive in now to the game week chat and looking back at last game week 4. I'd say it was one of the highest scoring because the average was quite high. But we'll go in sort of order of high scoring for the game week. So that does mean we are going to start with you, Andrew, I'm afraid. Lowest of the three of us in game week. In the game week. So if we just get it up now, this is what we're seeing. Actually, no, sorry, I'm lying. I was the lowest. Let me go back to
no editing that out, Roberto.
That stays in.
This is what the University of Lincoln gets you.
No, I was still pretty pleased though, to be fair with it. In the end, on 62, which with a -4 ended up being 58. So it's really weird. In these first 4 game weeks, I had scores of 59, 58, 59, and 58. So very consistent. And it was unfortunately my first red arrow of the season. So I took a -4 because after our pod last time, I didn't really want to use any chips. I was sort of happy enough with my team and had a couple of sort of fires to put out. I wanted to get rid of Dorgu, and I also replaced the injured Ismail Assar. So I brought in Lucas Paqueta and Daniel Munoz, and they combined for a total of 7 points. So with the -4, it wasn't the end of the world, I suppose, but it would have been nice to have got a little bit more. But yeah, just below average with 62 and the average being 63. So for the audio, had Sells and goal for 1 point, Munoz with 5. He got booked annoyingly. Porro with 6. Chalobah, my boy Chalobah, who's been incredible. I've got to give him a week off. He's only human, so free for him. And Mo Salah, never in doubt. The Egyptian King does it again. 18-pointer on the captaincy. We had Semenyo with 13. Lovely stuff. He's been probably my best decision of the season since game week 1. Dewsbury Hall with 2. Wirtz with 3. My new signing, Paqueta with 2. And then Watkins, again, Villa stinking out with a 0-0 draw, 2-pointer. But João Pedro comes up trumps with a nice little assist, 7 points. And then Dubravka, Wood, Murillo, and Hoover on the bench with all of them blanking. And unfortunately, Murillo picking up a little flag just before I might have wanted to use him. So we'll see what we think about that when we get on to talk about our sort of team for next week. But yeah, sort of thoughts on this one, Andrew. I mean, it's a solid team. I feel like it's got a decent foundation. Just maybe a few of them a little bit misfiring in game week 4.
I think it's fine. I mean, you're doing very well at the minute, Roberto. I'm not one to, as much as I enjoy the banter, I'm not one to downplay anyone's achievements. You're doing one of the best of all the content creators in the whole game. So, and I'm sure you only got me on here to hype you up, and that's all I'm going to do. You're doing well. You had, you had a below average game week this week. Let's not mince words. You were 5 points below the average, and that's a blot on your copybook. But now the question is, though, what are you going to do about Mo Salah next week? Are you going to keep him? Are you going to play the free hit, or are you going to make the sensible move and get Erling Haaland in? Either way, what I'm seeing is, while your team is fine, there are problems mounting for future game weeks, and it's how you navigate those problems which will determine whether you maintain this glorious start.
It's interesting to see. It's interesting to see you start so well when you have, correct me if I'm wrong, but you have Wirtz and Watkins in your team, right? And those guys have been stinky, but your team has been so great overall apart from those two. So shout out to you. You made some great picks in game week 1.
Yeah, I guess that's the key of having a nice team unit. They can pick other people up when there's a few sort of slacking. It's overall it's all right. It's good enough, and I'm pretty happy with it because there's a lot of people that have started very badly. So to be where I am, 234 points after 4 weeks, very happy with that. And of course, top of the FPL Podcast League, which is the only one that counts really. So very pleased with that. It's one of those things. Look, this week Semenyo was fantastic. João Pedro, nice to see him getting more returns. But the really frustrating one was Paqueta, because I was watching that West Ham game just thinking, something, if he could just provide something here, I could sort of be pleased with that, with Munoz's clean sheet. But yeah, West Ham just not very good at all at the moment, and it's a bit of a concern going forward. But I saw that you've also got Paqueta in your team, Kanji. So what do you think about him as an asset?
They had the red card, so it just caveats everything that happened in the game. He could have scored as well in the match. And you can pick up a pen in any game as well. He's the hold till game like 12, in my opinion.
Yeah, he had that one that he dragged just wide. It was a bit frustrating seeing that, but outside of it, it's just where the West Ham form goes is the biggest concern, I suppose. But Yeah, no, all in all, not too bad. And a couple of flags there, but nothing too major to have to deal with, I don't think. But the next highest scoring of the game week was Andrew's team. 67 points for Andrew, which, you know, is very decent with no transfers made. So 67. Vicario with an 8-pointer. Porro with 6. Livramento with 6. Cucurella with 1, getting benched against Brentford. Senesi with 3. Kudus with 3, Barnes with 3, Reinders with 3. So a theme of 3 here coming along in the midfield. And then Chris Wood with 1, and then Joao Pedro 7, Haaland on the captaincy 26, very nice. And then Dubravka 3, and Sarr and Cunha there were not playing. Interesting approach there from Andrew, and then Agbadou with 4. So yeah, thoughts on this game week, Andrew? I mean, it's interesting that you decided to play the patient approach, and it actually not punished you too much this week.
Well, why would it punish me? I mean, like it wasn't like there was any sort of champions playing the worst team in the league or anything. But no, well, yeah, the reason why I did the patient approach is I thought if I make any transfers, I'm going to have to bench Chris Wood, and I just feel like if I'm benching a player of Chris Wood's caliber, I probably don't need to make a transfer. I mean, you can see there I've got Agbadou on the bench. I thought he would do all right. I didn't think they'd only concede 1 goal. Otherwise, I would have started him. But my thinking was, if Agbadou, I think he'll get the DEFCON points and they'll concede twice. So that's 3 points. So I might as well gamble on Chris Wood, and then at least I'll get 2 points. And it's just like a 1-point gamble on the promise of a haul. And then, of course, Chris Wood came off before 60 minutes and got 1 point, and Agbadou got 4 points. So that blew up in my face. I was quite frustrated that Porro and Kudus did not get highest scores. Obviously, Kudus had the assist wrongly ruled out for the Romero goal. But it was that at the end when the cross came in from Porro and Kudus made it on the volley. And then, like, Hermanson from nowhere, you know, he's got like spaghetti fingers and then somehow they're hardened into hands of steel. And he somehow makes one of the saves of the season. It's like, why do that now in these situations? And this is what I mean. I've been struggling all season, and then that happens, and it's like you just feel so defeated. You feel like you can have the perfect situation, and the game is just going to say, no, you're down in the mire, lad. You're going to keep going down. So obviously when I turned on my phone and saw Haaland had got 26 points for me, it was an emotional time. And, you know, you can go and watch my video from my vlog from Sunday on my channel after watching this one. This fine analysis hour that we'll be putting together. You go and watch my video on that, and it is like you can see the emotion. It took me by surprise how emotional I got, because I've been like, oh, I'm too cool. It's early doors. It doesn't matter. You know, no real FPL manager stresses this early. And then, you know, he goes and does that, and I'm like almost in tears on my stomach.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And it's like,
I can imagine.
Oh, maybe it did matter a bit more than I thought. But Harvey Barnes has been a bit disappointing, really. I expected more. And again, he had an assist ruled out for offside, but correctly so. Reinders could have had 11 points, and, you know, it's just one of that. I think the biggest frustration, though, was Cucurella, because that creates a problem going forward, because now I know that he's not secure. So I need to deal with that, but maybe not this week, because I've got 11 players, and, you know, if Sarr and Cunha are both out and Cucurella is a doubt because of his rotation, I've still got 11 players without them, so it doesn't matter so much.
It's not just like Cucurella in general. I was gonna wait to like post this later, but like I sent Roberto like a quote where Maresca was saying that Sanchez can be dropped, Jorgensen can be played. There's going to be a lot of rotation in the center back spots. They've got like Fofana fit, Badiashile. They've got Tosin, Chalaba. There's probably someone else I missed as well. So like there's gonna be a lot of rotation in general with Chelsea. So it's not just Cucurella. But I don't know, Maresca doesn't respect Brentford. Last year he played a backup team versus Brentford, and this year he did the same thing. It's crazy. But that's why they've dropped points, right?
I think the reason is he's just not a very good manager. Like, he's been vastly over promoted, and he's got a squad that sees him through it with often moments of individual magic. But when it comes down to the nitty gritty, he's just not a good manager. Like, I think you put Eddie Howe in charge of Chelsea, they'll win the league at a canter. Or Iraola. If you put Iraola in charge of Chelsea, I think walk the league with the squad they've got. But
yeah, two more things. So one, you really opened up the variance box this week. You're like, you know what? I'm all in on high variance. No Liverpool players on the whole team.
Well, who could you bring in? I couldn't get to Salah, and it's like, will Ekitike play? Will Gakpo play? And even if they do, I'm still going to have to take them out next week. So if you think of a transfer as being worth 4 points, that's 8 points I'm going to have to pay to get Ekitike. And like, I could have got Ekitike in for the game against Burnley, but then who am I going to want this week? The striker who's playing Burnley, who I've already got. So, you know, it's just like, what's the point? I just hope that Burnley, Big Marty Dubs does the business. And, you know, I mean, there were one dodgy decision away from a complete shutout.
Yeah, must have been fuming at Hannibal at the end of the game. I don't know if you watched the Liverpool game or not.
I slept right through it, woke up, I thought I'll take all the bad news in a water, and then I saw 1-0 and I thought, I know what's going to have happened here. And it actually had happened, but it wasn't so bad that way because it was just 1-0. If I'd have been watching and then that happened, I would have been like, you know, I would have been down in the doldrums, but it wasn't so bad when you...
It's quite weird to say, but like as a Liverpool fan, you were unlucky that you didn't get more points from Reinders and Haaland this week.
No, I thought so, but
like it's so odd to say. Like Liverpool played Burnley, and I'm looking at your team like at the beginning of the week, I would have said, "Bro, this is crazy." Like no Salah cap, and now I'm looking back on it, like, bro, you were actually more unlucky than I was.
No, well, maybe. I mean, sorry, go on, Roberto. You've done remarkably well to be quiet for so long, Roberto. Time for your ramble.
No, I was just going to say, Kanji's, hit the nail on the head there, because a lot of people have had that conversation around Salah versus Haaland this season, and a lot of the people that had Haaland have actually felt more unlucky than those that have had Salah, and a lot of his returns have been very late, with his goals and assists. So there's an argument to say that Haaland should be on more points, even though he's already ahead of Salah in that sort of head-to-head sort of battle between them. So do you think that you would, if you had, no Haaland in your team, Andrew, you would sacrifice Salah to get him in, or do you think it's worth it? You can maybe jiggle things around and get both in.
Would I, if I had no Haaland, would I sell Salah to get him in a heartbeat?
Yeah.
Like Salah is like, Haaland's got a higher XG than Liverpool's entire team. Like everything is being funneled to Haaland, who is hungry. He's a hungry hippo, and he's munching up all that food of goals. Like he could have had a hat-trick in every match he's played, whereas Salah feels isolated. It's like he's not really adapted to the new players around him. And this is what I was saying in pre-season. I don't know if you remember, but like everyone he interacts with has changed. He's lost Trent Alexander-Arnold. He's lost the strikers. He's lost the there was a midfielder who I can't remember as well. Like everyone that he plays with is changing. Wirtz has come in, so that's a new one to interact with. Frimpong's come in, that's a new one to interact with. Kerkez is the winger on the opposite flank, the wing back on the opposite flank. The attack is completely different. There's just so much change. And the big strength of Liverpool last season was there was no change. And now they've had this revolution, and it has been a revolution. 6 first-team players is an awful lot to change. And it's about finding the balance. And until they do, I feel like we're going to see Salah remain peripheral for a while longer. I mean, he's not even involved in games. You take away the penalties, and I think, but this, to me, this actually does go back to the cup final because Tino Livramento shattered his aura. No shots, no chances created for the first time in his career when he played 90 minutes. And since then, what's he done? He's a couple of penalty goals, and people thought, oh, he's switched off because they've won the league. It doesn't matter anymore. But really, he hasn't recovered the form from before that cup final. And it's been, it's been 13 game weeks now, and all he's doing is getting penalties and, late assists against 10 men who have run the heart out. Although, really, that assist against Newcastle should have been Zoboszlai, because that step over, it should have been, because that step over was the move that created the chance. But you're never going to get that in a game like FPL. It's too subtle a measure. But I would be very worried if I was Salah. You take out the penalties, and Phil Foden's probably outscored him over the last 12 or 13 game weeks, which is crazy because Phil Foden barely plays anymore. You know?
Yeah, I was first start against Manchester United, and he scored his goal. But yeah, it's interesting. Well, I think I'm going to show a bit more optimism towards Salah going forward. But one man who did have Salah in his team and had a very good first week of his wild card was Kanji. So 78 points, the highest between the three of us. Started off with Raya in goal for 6, 10 with Anderson, 8 for Virgil, 6 for Maxence Lacroix. Semenyo again 13. Fernandez with a blank for 2. Salah with 18 on the captaincy. Paqueta as well with a 2. And then Evan Ilson with a 5. Gyökeres with a 6, which probably could have been more. And then Mateta with 2. And then on the bench, Dubravka for 3. Senesi for 3. Grinders and Tosin. How do you feel about this wild card? Obviously, it looks like it's started fairly, steadily first week, Kanji, but obviously it's a few players there that will be interested to see how they get on coming weeks.
Yeah, first of all, it's interesting to see like Andrew and Roberto's teams. You're picking up 60+ points, and you're not really scraping a good green or you're even getting a small red on 60+ points. That goes to show you like how many points you need in game weeks this season because of the added points of DEFCON, right? It's the first thing. So when you look at my back line, Senesi Anderson, it's like that is like the DEFCON monster, like poster boys, I would say at 4.5. And Van Dijk is like the unicorn, where like when he doesn't get the DEFCON points, he's probably keeping a clean, pretty likely. And when he does keep the clean, he's picking up the bonus. Like he's just a beast, bro. I love Virgil. And just a subtle thing, in terms of just an eye test play when you're watching Arsenal, the new center back that's come in, Mosquera, has actually played very well. He had some good moments where he covered Arsenal in transition last night in the Champions League. I was very impressed. And so I'm hoping that maybe he might take some minutes away from Gabriel and Saliba, hopefully in the Premier League. So that would hurt some managers maybe. But I think that's the advantage of going for Raya, where you get the nailed on minutes. You have nothing to worry about. And then Lacroix is in over Munoz purely for DEFCON. So I'm really like leaning in towards the DEFCON points. I think if I were to drop any of my defenders, it would be Van Dijk all the way down to like a 4.0 to get more money into my attack. But other than that, I'd be very happy to keep my entire defense, the entire back 5 plus the goalkeepers for the rest of the season. So very comfortable with the defense. The midfield, Semenyo, I actually sold Gakpo on wildcard, which sounded crazy given that he had Burnley. But as Andrew mentioned, like Liverpool just haven't clicked in attack. They haven't looked that great. So when I did Gakpo out to Semenyo, I actually felt happier. And I'd mentioned to Roberto, like Semenyo was one of my favorite picks from last year. I held him for a long time. I was so proud that he went for him in Game Week 1 because I was like, okay, now I have someone that I can like follow, that I'm going to go through the journey that's going to hold Semenyo. So I saw like the points that were coming in. The XG data was excellent. He destroyed Liverpool in Game Week 1, and not many players really do that. So I'm glad that I brought him in. So that was a huge swing. Like that was a big decision. That probably got me the green arrow within itself. Bruno is going to be in all season for me. Salah, very disappointing, as Andrew mentioned as well. If you look at the XG data for Haaland, he's at 6.0 XGI on the season. Salah's at 1.6. And if you take out the penalty, he's at 0.8 XGI versus Haaland's, 6.0. Like, this is horrendous. Like, this is a problem. Like, this is most likely Salah's last week in my team. I shouldn't be this harsh, but I just feel like it's the right way to be. Where, like, he just hasn't done enough. Liverpool haven't clicked. So I think Salah out to Haaland in 6 rather than free hitting in 6 is probably the play. And then that would probably be another make weight would be Mateta. So other than that, I think that the team looks all right. Just to keep an eye on Gyökeres' X minutes. He hasn't been getting 90s like I expected he would with Havertz out. He's only getting like 65. So I wouldn't ever consider captaining him if that's the trend that's going to continue.
The only thing I'd say, Kanji, is would you not be worried about taking out Salah now if when Isak gets into the team, that improves Salah's output?
Yeah, it's a great point. I mean, I honestly still think we're going to have the best attack come the end of the season. But right now, you just can't. Like, you just can't avoid what Haaland is doing. Like, he's cooking. Like, his averages are ridiculous. He's averaging like 1.2 XG per 90. It's like ridiculous, bro.
He's not just cooking. He is the kitchen. You know.
Facts, bro.
But no, I just want to come back on that point about Isak improving Salah's output. Do you not think it'll just be a case of just get Isak? You know, he's £4 million cheaper, and he's playing centrally, and he's a better player.
Yeah, but with Arsenal's fixture swing, do you think people can actually afford a front three of Haaland, Gyökeres, and Isak? you think that'll be a bit too much money?
I think you can afford anything. There's enough players in the game doing well that are cheap that you can, get Caicedo in midfield and pick up, an average of 6 points a week. Something like that, I mean, I don't know. Do you need Gyökeres? I don't have Gyökeres, and I don't feel like he's a must sign. Like Kanji says, he doesn't even barely play as an hour.
Yeah,
I want Voltemada.
I mean,
Joao Pedro as well. Haaland, Isaac, Joao Pedro is 1.5 million more than Gyökeres, and I don't think you're going to be missing out in that sense. But I mean, you can't really trust Isaac, can you? Just you wait. You think he's a great player, but wait until he starts missing the one-on-ones on a weekly basis, and
relax.
It's the most frustrating thing about him, because you think, oh, he's through here. He's gonna, that screamer he scored against Liverpool from about 30 yards, where he turned Van Dijk inside and outside. He only scored it because if he'd have got any closer to the goal, he would have missed it.
He's
terrible.
Goes.
He's terrible.
You're an Isak hater now, or what?
I'm not a hater. I went on the black box and I was almost in tears about how much I love Isak and how I hate this situation and the way it's tarnishing his reputation among Newcastle fans. I'll never forget what he's done for this club and for the memory he gave me on that cup final day. He's a very special player, but he does have his flaws, and the one-on-ones is surprisingly one of them. And although what I will counter, and people say, "Oh, he's injury prone." Well, he played just about every game for us last season, except for when he cried off against Liverpool and Arsenal in the league. So I mean, once Real Madrid come calling, that's when you'll have to worry about Isak. Suddenly it'll be free Isak all over again.
The narratives can change definitely very quickly.
I would rather Isak of any of them attackers at Liverpool. He's almost the best Scandinavian striker in the Premier League. Very, very close to Strand Larsen.
Stop.
I thought you'd say that. Yeah, you love your big hunky strikers up top. But looking ahead then to Gameweek 5, we did get a quote from Enzo Maresca on Robert Sanchez saying tomorrow Robert Sanchez will start and Philip Jorgensen will play games in the Premier League, UCL, FA Cup and Carabao. We have so many games that Robert cannot play all of them. What do you read into this, Kanji? Do you think that it will be sort of a bit, from week to week alternating, or do you think there'll be certain sort of games that Sanchez plays for?
I think it'll be similar to what happened last year with Nicholas Jackson, where just the weeks when you're the most excited to have him, he's going to be benched. So that's what I think. In the easy games, Sanchez might actually not play, and that just ruins the value of having somebody that came in your team. In addition, it adds more rotation risk. You don't know if you're going to be able to get your bench boost off, if he's going to start with complete certainty anymore. So, I mean, if I was on wildcard, I'd be avoiding this pick, and I'd just go for one of the Chelsea defenders if I wanted to cover it up.
Yeah. If you were picking a Chelsea defender, Andrew, who do you think? Do you think Chalobah is your man, or would you look at someone else in the future weeks?
I think anybody that got Chalobah at the start is a genius. And they should probably sell him now before that genius is proven to be fool's gold, because I would honestly not be signing Chelsea players, because this is when silly season starts. They're in Europe now, the cups have started domestically, and then before you know it, it's going to be the league. And who's to say if he can drop Cucurella, he can drop anyone. It wouldn't surprise me if Joao Pedro was dropped and Pedro Neto played up front or something.
Well, I don't think they can do that, because the lap's not there,
Well, I wouldn't have thought they could have benched Nicholas Jackson against Southampton and Leicester last season when he was my starting striker, but he went and did it. No, I mean, the lap's not there, but they've played Pedro Neto up front last season, and they've got Mark Gui, and they've got, they could play Cole Palmer in a false nine. They've done that before as well, I believe. So, just because they shouldn't doesn't mean they won't. But
that's true.
You would have to think Pedro would be pretty safe. But apparently, Nick Triggerlips has been saying that Pedro was crying about being too tired and needing a lie in on Saturday, and he didn't want to play. So, to me, that could be a problem brewing there already.
I honestly think that is a problem. Like historically, João Pedro misses lots of games, and he only played once a week for Brighton. So,
no. Well,
a
bit like Isaac at Newcastle.
It will change the dynamic. It certainly will change the dynamic when we get into the thick of the Champions League, especially, and these other competitions, because players that we think will get the majority of minutes and probably still will might just gonna get those early subs a little bit more often. So we've got a graphic up here for those on the YouTube that will be able to see it. For those on audio, it's sort of looking at XG and non-penalty XG. Do you want to just talk us through this one, Kanji, in terms of what you take from this? I mean, Chelsea, Man City, at the top, unsurprisingly for XG, but then it's quite a sort of interesting difference between their sort of non-penalty XG as well.
I think the first point is like Man City versus Liverpool, right? We're seeing Man City on 7.7 non-pen and Liverpool's on 5.5. So I just think that's like a big anomaly. I'm like, okay. Now keep in mind, Liverpool have played Newcastle and Arsenal, two of the best defenses in the league. I'd say the two best defenses in the league. So that's like something to really consider. Secondly, Everton are still continuing to be a very good attack. Reliable once again. They didn't score a goal versus Aston Villa, but they created over 2 XG in the game, so they were unlucky. So I think an attacker like Grealish or Ndiaye, I know there was the risk. I think what was the manager came out in the press conference and said Ndiaye had a knock. He was in doubt for the game. Yeah. So everybody on wildcard had to avoid. But I'm sure I would have been there myself if I knew Ndiaye was fit. So that's one player that I'm really considering is a Grealish versus Ndiaye maybe for the future. Bournemouth attack continues to be reliable. They created another 2 goals this week. So it's just little things to really consider. I think Spurs are just mid-table attack, even though it's a Thomas Frank team. I think that might improve in the future. But Nottingham Forest, I mean, you're in the bottom half. I mean, I don't know how you're sitting there with 2 great fixtures coming up. So hopefully you can spike a haul. But I don't know if I want to own those guys long term. And the same with like Brentford, Leeds, Burnley, Sunderland. And then, of course, we've got Aston Villa at the bottom of the table. That's like horrific viewing for Watkins and Rodgers double up owners.
Well, it was a pretty tricky start for Ange Postecoglou against Arsenal, Andrew. But do you think going forward that he can get that team scoring goals again and, with the 2 good fixtures they've got coming up?
I don't think scoring goals was ever really the problem for Nottingham Forest because they were quite a clinical team. I think the problem is that you've got a squad built for one style of football and now you've transplanted in a completely different style of football. You can see the problems that caused at Man United last season when they took a 4-2-3-1 squad and tried to make them play 3-4-3 and, it was just terrible. And Ange Postecoglou, I mean, it's hard to judge. Like, fair enough, he's got the soundbite of winning things in the second season and he did win the Europa League with quite a nice run to the final and then, of course, playing one of the worst teams in the country in the final. But it's hard. I can't judge him because he was without his starting defence for 46 games. Van der Ven and Romero missed for him last season and Vicario was out for another 12. So for all you say, you can't defend, well, I think any team would struggle without the starting, goalkeeper. Imagine like Liverpool without Alisson, Van Dijk and Konate. Well, I mean, Liverpool have got Mamardashvili in goal. He's probably one of the best keepers in the league and he's not even playing. But the point remains, you take out that defensive spine from any team and there's going to be a struggle. But, I mean, you wouldn't be signing them, would you? You would not be bringing in Nottingham Forest players, even though they've got these 2 games, which I don't think are that good. I will say that. People think, newly promoted teams. These aren't, Leicester and Southampton. Even Burnley just lost 1-0 to Liverpool, the best team in the country. I didn't like saying that, but it's true, and I'm an honest man. Sunderland, like people say, bring in your Ollie Watkins, this is where it's going to turn. Why? Sunderland have been one of the best defences in the league this season. These teams are coming up and they're very solid. They're hard to break down. And I've got Chris Wood, but I don't really expect, I'm not captaining him. And you think, like, if it was Chris Wood against Southampton or Leicester last season, I'd be all over the captaincy. But not a chance against these teams that are they're happy to defend and they're very solid. And I just don't think these fixtures are the walk in the park. The walk in the park fixture is West Ham at the minute. And ironically, they thrashed Nottingham Forest. So, it's so anyway, Big Hands, I don't know what he'll do. It depends how the players respond to him, but I think we saw with England and Serbia what happens when Milenkovic plays a high line. They concede 5 goals.
Yeah, it is tricky, but I feel like with the fixtures, as they are with these Aston Villa and Forest assets, we should just stay patient. They're sort of in the category of don't sell, but also don't buy if you don't already have them. Because then, would you agree with that?
I disagree with keep Watkins just on the off chance of something. Like Watkins isn't even nailed. Like Unai Emery doesn't like him. He plays him because he has to, but he's not a fan of him. And they were trying to flog him in January to Arsenal, and I just don't think Sunderland is. People are this season is doing my head in because I'm having to say things that make me feel dirty. But Sunderland are a good team. Like people are underestimating what a good team they are, and I don't think they're a great team. But I don't think Aston Villa, with no league goals all season and 1 goal in a cup from a reserve goalkeeper blunder, are just going to stroll up to against Sunderland and walk all over them. I think Sunderland are the favourites for that match, and I would sell Watkins even now, or Rodgers certainly, because I just don't think it's if you keep them and the score, what are you going to do the next week? Because you're still going to have these players, and you're going to be telling yourself, "Oh, it was only Sunderland. What's he going to do now?" You might as well just sell him and get Haaland in. I'd rather Haaland against Arsenal than Watkins against Sunderland.
Yeah, I mean, looking at this data of Kanji for
or Gyökeres against Man City against,
Yeah. This data for Aston Villa, Kanji, I mean, 2.86 on both fronts for non-penalty XG and XG. It is looking bleak for Villa, but do you think maybe that when Villa get into the Europa League, that might kickstart a bit of form for them? Or do you think it is just, we should just, jump off the ship?
Yeah, I mean, selling Watkins was one of the reasons I wildcarded. I upgraded him to Gyökeres for pretty much the same price. I'm buying into a better team where now I have Saka on one side and Eze on the other. Well, ideally. So I mean, I would hold for the fixture, but that's about it. If you get the blank this week, I mean, he should be mass sold for Gameweek 6, in my opinion, because Fulham are solid defensively. One thing I wanted to mention with this is, like, do you see, like, there's a lot of people that have been disrespecting Jean-Philippe Mateta, because the thing is, he didn't have Eze anymore. Doesn't have Sarr for the last 3 weeks, where people were like, I don't think he's going to get points. Well, do you know Mateta had more XGI than João Pedro and Voltemata combined last week? But he blanked. So it is what it is. Points are what matters in FPL anyway. But just to see, like, Crystal Palace are just underneath Bournemouth for non-pen XG, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah,
he did miss a sitter last night, though, didn't he? This is the problem with Mateta. Like, if he scored half the chances that Munoz puts on a plate for him, then Munoz would be a 220-point player. But this is the thing, and I don't know. I think what you were saying about him being the make weight for Haaland next week could well come to pass. I mean, somebody has to be the make weight, and like for your team, you've got Mateta and Salah. That could easily become Ndai and Haaland, and next week Ndai's got West Ham, which I think is the fixture to target. So, there you go. There's my official advice to somebody that's about 5 million places higher than me.
No, don't worry. I don't care that much about rank. I care more about what your team looks like. No, I care about rank at the end of the season. At this point, I could care less.
Yeah. No,
it's a good narrative. It's a good narrative. I genuinely think I'm the lowest ranked content creator in the world, and I can use that as a selling point. Use that to get some views.
So moving on to the defensive data, this is why I was so jealous of your Livramento pick, Andrew. You've got Newcastle with the best defense in the league so far. They've played some very difficult fixtures already, so they deservingly deserve to be at the top of that list. But it's unfortunate there's so much rotation with that team. You know, when Lewis Hall is back fit, then is it going to be Livramento and Lewis Hall, or will Trippier factor in? That's the thing, we don't know. And like, I think if you want Newcastle, for me, it would be Pope just for nailed on X minutes. But if Livramento continues to play because he's the utility man, you're going to be cooking long term with that pick at that price for sure. But yeah, Newcastle look great. Arsenal continue to look solid. Bournemouth have been very impressive. Chelsea somehow are fourth. Fulham somehow are fifth. So people that were talking trash about Joachim Andersen, hold that 10-pointer on your head from last week. But as you mentioned, Sunderland have been solid. Leeds have been solid as well. So maybe targeting these bottom feeder teams isn't the right way to be looking to target teams. Like, as you mentioned, like West Ham, Wolves, Manchester United even. Like, these are the teams that you could be looking to target. Villa in order to get some good attacking returns. So it's very, very interesting. It's not the same season that we were going through last year.
Yeah, this does feel like there's a lot of different patterns emerging. And, you know, players from Newcastle, Andrew, the likes of Teal that's come in, do you think some of these sort of new signings, you know, even some of these clubs like Palace, you know, they've brought in, you know, the likes of Souza. Do you think we will be picking some of these new players for our defenses, or do we think we go with the tried and tested DEFCON defenders like your Tarkovskis and your Lacroix, and we just sort of keep it simple? Because I've seen a lot of people saying if they just stack up on these DEFCONs, they're just going to leave them all season. But I can also see the argument for people trying to still get the Munozes and the Porros of these worlds to sort of get that attacking route to points.
Well, you know very well that I released a video extolling the virtues of the 5-man DEFCON daddy defense. But right, first point, it's pronounced Chow. I know it's a T, but it's pronounced Chow. Malik Chow. Okay. I don't know why. Some people just pronounce the names weirdly, but Malik Chow. But I don't think he'll get many minutes. Right. So with regards to the question, it was basically, do you recommend sticking with the tried and trusted kind of players and the attacking players with attacking potential, or bringing in like the new players and the DEFCON potential? Am I correct? It was quite a multifaceted question that I'm trying to distill down to a simple answer. What I would say is, personally, I would stick with the tried and trusted for the most part. I think in attack is where you can really go for the new boys, but in defense, you want that kind of stability. You want long-term relationships that have built up. And then, to be fair, all this is turned on its head by the fact that Senesi is one of the top scorers, because, you know, he's got four new players in that defense with him, and he missed most of last season as well. So I don't know. I would stick defensively. I would go with DEFCON players with clean sheet potential, with a bit of an attacking threat. And you look at the likes of Van Dijk; he is perfect for that. Clean sheet potential, DEFCON potential, attacking threat. He's the perfect defender, really. He's probably who I'll bring in for Cucurella. Now Cucurella is a rotation risk.
Well, would you consider moving to like Gabriel for 7 to 11 and Van Dijk in 12?
I might consider that when I actually look that far ahead.
Yeah, that's true. No, so I've looked at that rotation. That's
but the problem I have with Arsenal is that they've got two elite players for each position, and like with Saliba out, I'm just not sure. Like, when's he going to be back? I certainly wouldn't be bringing them in for when they come to St James's Park, because traditionally over the last few years, Eddie Howe has Arteta's number. Well, he does. You know, we beat them 3 times to 0 last season, and I just think so. I would certainly be waiting. I'm saying certainly a lot, and I'm quite uncertain about everything I'm saying, which is quite funny. But
your chest, Andrew, it's good.
I think Arsenal defenders, if you get the right one, like I would probably go Timber, and I know he doesn't have the DEFCON potential. Or Calafiori's injury prone, isn't he? So
yeah.
I mean, again, you stick with the tried and trusted. If it's a choice between defcons and rotation risk, or no defcons but tried and trusted, like a Gabriel, who actually is getting defcons at the minute, but I would go with the tried and trusted. I think what the most important factor is minutes and security of start.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if they come off around 65 minutes. In many ways, that's advantageous for a defender because you're more likely to bank the clean sheet. But like, I would say security of start, and that's actually what put me off starting with Dan Burn, because we've got Sven Botman to come in, or Fabian Schär, because we've got Chow to come in, or even Botman can play on that side. I actually think Livramento is the only Newcastle defender you can really fully rely on, because I feel it's going to be Livramento +1. So if Trippier starts, Livramento will be on the left, and if Hall starts, Livramento will be on the right. Trippier is, of course, 34 years old, and Hall is coming back from a serious injury. So certainly in the short term, I think Livramento will start most games. Although saying that, he could easily be rested on Sunday because of the Barcelona game on Thursday night, which I believe will be tonight when this comes out, if I have got the schedule correct. Or it might even be last night if it's delayed by a day for some reason.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I would stick with I would stick. I'm not really making a point very concisely here at all.
Well, welcome to the gang, Andrew. It's fun. It's good fun.
I've been infected by Roberto. So, I would say defenders, you want steady picks who start and who have attacking potential, ideally with defcon potential as well. If they have one or the other, so if you've got a defcon defender with no attacking threat, or a attacking threat defender with no defcon potential, I would go for the defcons, because like we talk about attacking threat, but an assist is 3 points for a defender, well, for any player. So you only need 2 defcons. How many assists does a defender get? I think Trent got 11 or 12 in his best season most of the time. Nathan Collins got 7 last year, which was seen as an outstanding return for a defender. Well, that's like 10 defcon points, and the defcon points are 10 defcon returns, and they're a lot more secure and consistent. So
yeah, absolutely. No, it's really, really interesting. Thanks for that, Andrew. We are
however, I will interrupt you again, because I am maximizing my screen time on here and running roughshod over the format. What I would say is have a balance. Like I would get 3, maybe 4 defcon defenders, but you need to have an attacking, a Munoz or a Cucurella or a Pedro Porro, someone that can like bring a bit of life to you. You know, the good thing about the defcons is you can carry them, because like I've got Agbadou. I benched him last week. If I needed him, he got 4 points. That's a very good return for a defender. If you're getting someone that can get 4 points when you're against a good team like Newcastle, that's ideal. So have them on the bench, and then, you know, it's like the all-rounder like a Van Dijk. But you have to have an attacking threat as well, because the attacking threat, you can predict the fixtures a bit more. So you can target the fixtures for the attacking threat, and have the defcons like are a bit more. It's about balance is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, definitely. Having a mixture of the two, 100%. And it's interesting as well. There's been a lot of chat about sort of when to use your chips this season with the double chips. I mean, I've taken a very laissez-faire attitude at the start of the season of, I'll use it when I feel like I need it. And I was thinking of using it later on in the sort of 19 game week period, because we might sort of get more information. But I've seen a lot of people playing wildcards recently. You know, a few free hits were played last week. And with this tweet from Talha Nadeem, maybe we can kind of have a bit more clarity on things of when to play them, because Palace's cup win got them closer to a potential blank and double in the first half of the season. And the 4th round draw being next week, revealing their opponents and that final hurdle. So do you think, Kanji, this means we should hold our chips for a bit longer and wait to sort of pencil them in, or just play them when your sort of team needs it, really?
Well, this is how FPL landscape really changed pretty quickly. So, like, because they advanced in the penalty shootout, there's probably, if they beat their next opponent, which you will know by the start of game week 13, you will know if they're going to blank in game week 17. Now, the double could go into game week 16 or it could get pushed until later on in the season. But because Palace are in Europe, I saw what they did to Liverpool last year when Liverpool had the blank because of like something that happened with the Everton game. They moved the Liverpool game so early. So remember, Liverpool had back-to-back double game weeks last year. So it's like I think the Palace game is actually still going to go early in the season. So it wouldn't surprise me if we have a double game week in game week 16. No, that's my own personal opinion. But the blank, if they get through this game, would happen in game week 17. So let's assume in this, let me ask you this hypothetical question. There is a double game week in game week 16, a blank in game week 17. How would that change the way that you want to use your chips? Would you want to use your bench boost in the double game week, your triple captain in the double game week, or would you want to use your free hit in the double game week? What do you guys think?
Personally, I think free hitting in a double makes more sense for the start of the season, because when there is more blanks later on, you know, that half of the season you can kind of utilize a free hit in that week. Whereas I think you play a more aggressive approach in a sort of stage where there's not as many blanks, and you can kind of just go target fixtures because everyone's going to be going for similar sort of double games in the second half of the season. Andrew's shaking his head, but I think you using it aggressively, because then you're going to get sort of an edge on the people that have a regular team for a regular game week, I think. What about you, Andrew?
I completely disagree with all that analysis, and this is something that I have actually researched well, and I made a video about. And it's what's the most frustrating thing about being forced to use my wild card in game week 3 is that, which I had to because of injury and suspension, and I had like 4 or 5 players out. It was ridiculous. The most frustrating thing is that the optimum strategy for me is game week 13 wild card, game week 15 bench boost, game week 17 free hit, and game week 19 as the kind of last stop for the triple captain. You've got a great choice of fixtures there. Although, really, let's be honest, it has to be triple captain Haaland in game week 6. And that's why people need to sign him, not free hit him in. They need to sign him to triple captain. Now, I believe Palace's game, from what I've read off Ben Krellin, which kind of correlates with what the great Kanji says above, is that the game would move into game week 16. But that double for Palace includes, I think it's Man City and Leeds. Like, we've been here before. I remember all the hype last year about Crystal Palace. Oh, they've got a double game week in game week 32. And then Munoz got -1 point for a double game week. You know, Newcastle thrashed them 5-0, and sometimes these things are overhyped, and you could see that happening again with Man City and, you know, a blank against Leeds quite easily. But game week 17, it's not just about the double and the blank. What you've got to look at is, in that time, we will all be wanting Liverpool, Man City, Newcastle, Man United, perhaps, if they pick up some form, them players. The fixtures for game week 17 are Newcastle versus Chelsea. Arsenal have got Everton, which isn't ideal. Spurs are playing Liverpool. And then, you know, these aren't great games, and we're likely to have players from these teams in our squads. I'm just looking at the fixtures on the side because I couldn't remember them off the top of my head. There's enough games there where, you know, like, you could easily have 5 players from Newcastle and Chelsea playing each other, depending on how injuries and suspensions and form falls. That Newcastle run before that game, they've got Everton, Spurs, Burnley, and Sunderland before that Chelsea game. You're going to have Newcastle players for that, especially if you go for the bench boost in 15 against Burnley. Man City, they have Sunderland in game week 15. This is why game week 15 is such a great bench boost opportunity. Liverpool have Leeds. You know, Man United have Wolves. Brighton have West Ham and Spurs have Brentford. That is a beautiful game. Week 15 is a beautiful game week. But then the teams for that bench boost that make it beautiful all have tough fixtures in game week 17. So if you use your free hit, you can load up. I think it was Crystal Palace was one of them, although obviously they won't be playing. Brighton have Sunderland that week. Brentford have Bournemouth have Burnley, and you can load up on the free hit on them teams. Like Man City have West Ham, which you probably have Man City players, but then you can load up on different ones, on better ones. You can take a punt on a Marmouche if he's back, rather than having to stick with a safe Reinders. So I would say game week 17, when you look at the rest of the fixtures, is far more important to have your free hit available for, because I just think that's where you're going to get more points. And the problem is, of course, that in these matches between the big, like Newcastle could score 3 goals against Chelsea, and Chelsea could score 3 goals against Newcastle. But
definitely, yeah.
You wouldn't want to be dependent on it. If it was the last game week of the season, you had a free hit and you needed to get the points to win your mini league, you wouldn't be going for players from that fixture. So that's my thinking behind the chip strategy.
Yeah, well, that's definitely really interesting, and I agree with a lot of those points, Andrew. Where people play those bench boosts will be interesting, and move on to that with a little segue onto Kanji looking ahead to game week 5. So for those on the audio, Kanji's currently got his bench boost active with a bench of Raya, Reinders, Senesi, and Tosin. With a selection as previously mentioned, with a lot of those DEFCON monsters and the likes of
DEFCON daddies. We're getting the term DEFCON daddies. Monsters has a negative connotation, whereas daddies, everybody wants to be a daddy. So that's what I think.
Talk us through, Kanji. What's the thinking behind activating the bench boost this week rather than a future one?
I think the idea is just get it out the way. I mean, I think looking at Maresca's tweet in itself, rotation is going to be a problem. That's not just going to be a Chelsea thing. That's going to be a league-wide thing. There are like 10 teams in Europe this year. It's ridiculous. So I don't know when my team is going to stay fit. I do want to be bringing in the likes of Salah plus Haaland together at some point. In order to do that, I have to have like a very cheap bench. So I think I know the way I want to attack the season, and getting the bench boost out the way is a great way to look at it. I went, there's another slide to the right. I actually looked at like historically my bench boost points over the past few seasons. Do you have that pulled up? See if it's there. Yeah. So these are my last few ranks as well. The last 2 years have been horrific for me. Last year particularly because I went against Salah, so he really, really hurt. But bench boost and triple captaincy in general, I've done very, very well. And these are the points before I started doubling them. So, like, for example, if you see my triple captain is 20 points last year on Salah, that's before I doubled it. Same with like Salah before, Rashford before, Son before. Bench boost in general, I've always gotten 15 points, and that's without taking hits. So in general, I am very good in terms of using my chips. Like, that's one of my strengths. So going back to my team, I think when I look at my 11, I think my 11 looks great. The issue is just going to be about the bench itself, right? Reinders, I think right now he's a 90-minute guy. I don't think there's anybody that has the legs to play center midfield like he can in this team. I think Bernardo's too old, and I think Rodri has to play CDM. Unless they played Rodri plus Nico Gonzalez, but I don't think Pep would do that. I could be playing Dubravka on the bench or Raya, but I think given Haaland's form, I think he's probably going to score. So that's why Raya's on my bench. And Senesi is a DEFCON monster. I'm probably going to get 4 points from that. And Newcastle's attack hasn't been that strong. And then Tosin, I'm not sure if he's going to start this game. However, they do play in the cup match in the midweek after. So I'd assume that Tosin has been starting every single game, that he's not part of the best 11, apart from game week 1 where he picked up an injury. I think it was during warmups. He started every game. So I expect him to start this Man United game because they should play the best 11 and then play a backup 11 in the cup. So that's why I think this is one of the weeks where my team is completely fit. Well, hopefully, if I can get through the Liverpool game, I can just get the bench boost out the way. So I'm hoping for 10 points. Do you guys think I can get that?
I mean, you'd think all of them would play on the bench there, Andrew, wouldn't you? I mean, Reinders, it's really a hard fixture for him, but outside of that, I don't hate it. It feels like a sort of 15-point average maybe for that bench, or is that a little bit optimistic?
I am very disappointed that I'm hearing such a great player as Kanji come in and say, "Oh, I'm so good with the chips. I've historically smashed it with the chips. I'm so good. I'm just going to throw this one away. Just put it in the bin. It doesn't matter if it only gets 5 points because I feel like why are you wasting it? If you don't mind, if you only get 5 points because you got rid of the chip, why are you wasting it on a week like this when you've got like your bench boost is a midfielder against a goalkeeper? Senesi should be in your team anyway. So then if you bring him in for Paqueta, then it's Paqueta versus Lacroix. And then you've got Tosin versus Bruno Fernandes. So for your bench boost to do well, your starting team's going to have to suffer. And I just think, like, honestly, I don't think it's a very good bench boost. I don't think there's a lot of points in it.
It's poor. It's poor.
And I feel like there'll be a week come where you can find one player that'll outscore what that does this week. There'll be a game week where you can have a midfielder who you think might get 2 goals. And then that would outperform this, even if he was the only one on your bench to play. And I get what you're saying about cheap players, but Sunderland and Leeds have got loads of 4 million defenders that are doing well. Like Mukiele's got DEFCONs in 2 matches out of the 2 he's started. Goodmanson and Rodon both look very good at home. So if you could get a lead, like Leeds and Sunderland in game week 18 play each other, I mean, that's got 0-0 written all over it. So you could bench boost there and not even think about the cost on your bench. I also saying, you want to get rid of it so you can afford more Salah. I mean, just get Isak.
Yeah, this is a really strong consideration as well. For example, like when I set up my wildcard this week, the initial intention was Mateta to a 4.0, 4.4, and Semenyo up to Palmer. So that was the idea, where I just have a complete dead spot. So I would never worry about, like you mentioned, oh, I got like a 10-pointer from one of my 8th attacker. Well, I wouldn't have an 8th attacker. So like that's what I'm trying to, because I'm trying to, like, basically what I'm saying is I think your best first bench is a cheap defender. So that's why I'm like, let me just get rid of this guy and move to a defensive formation potentially. There's so much you can do when you get rid of the bench boost. Like, let me put it like that. But when you have it, it just prohibits you. But I think if I go with the move you actually mentioned earlier, Andrew, of Salah and Mateta to Ndiaye and Haaland, that gives me an extra 4 weeks where I could look to put the bench boost out because I won't have a dead spot in my attack anymore. So I need to consider that. I haven't looked at it yet. But just as things stand, this is like bust team.
I mean, you look, even if that is the very move you go with for game week 6. Right, hang on, I'm just going to have to quickly bring up the fixtures because I've not really thought. Like Man United have got Brentford, so you could start Fernandes. Semenyo has Leeds and Evan Nilsson has Leeds. You wouldn't have Salah, you would have Ndiaye against West Ham, who would be playing Everton. And you'd have Haaland and Rangers against Burnley, and then you'd have Gyökeres against Newcastle. So really, Gyökeres is the one you would want to bench that week. And could he score against Newcastle? Of course he could. So even if you delay...
Oh, yeah, he could.
Well, I doubt it as well, but, putting him in your starting team and bench Paqueta or something for now. But even next week, game week 6, I think is a better option.
Yeah, personally. Exactly. So I'll look at what my bench boost looks like in the next 4 weeks. But like, because now I'm going to go for a Haaland team. I had never planned to put Haaland in my team, let me tell you. And I honestly, if Salah shows me something in the Champions League game or the Everton game, I might keep him. But let's see.
Yeah, I mean, we are all a bit guilty of assuming what has happened is what will continue to happen, because until it changes, you don't know. But this is the exact conversation we were having this time last season. Oh, we need to... Everyone was wildcarding in game week 6 to get Haaland in because Salah wasn't doing as well as Haaland, even though he'd started quite solidly. And then Salah went on and broke the record. And a lot of people sold Cole Palmer to get Haaland in as well. And Cole Palmer scored 4 goals. And, it's funny how these patterns are repeating a little bit. Like when I made my wildcard in game week 3, I was thinking about it for game week 4. And like the same players I wanted last season when I thought about wildcarding at the exact same game week, the same players were the same ones I wanted for this season as last season. So I do think we have to be a bit cautious. Like, for all I'm enjoying like ripping him because Liverpool are in my bad books at the minute after this summer. You know, it's Mo Salah. Like, the idea that perhaps the greatest perhaps Premier League player of all time. Let's not mince words. He deserves to be in the conversation of greatest Premier League player of all time. Yep. And the idea that he's just going to suddenly become nothing after one schooling by Tino Livramento seems a bit fanciful to me. Like, he's gonna hit form at some point, because if he doesn't, you'd have to think Slot will adapt the system a bit.
Yeah, definitely. Was this any planned transfers, Kanji, or
no, rolling for sure. I mean, the idea is to roll, and you need a plan for Haaland, right? Whether it's free hit in 6 or bring him in 6, right? So I need to roll.
Definitely. Okay, that's interesting. I'm pretty happy with the look of my team. Now, this might be where Andrew and Kanji rip into it and say you need to make about 4 transfers, but so far it looks good enough, I think. Sells with Burnley away, Munoz with West Ham away, Porro, Brighton away. I mean, it's quite a few away fixtures for defenders there, but they're all pretty solid picks in their own right. And Man United, the way that they're going in terms of their attack, could well be a nice Chelsea fixture away. Paqueta with Palace at home, Wirtz with Everton, Semenyo with another home game, and then Wood, Watkins, and Pedro all with decent fixtures. And then Salah on the captaincy for that Merseyside derby. So, yeah, it's just the only things with Livramento. With Dewsbury Hall. Livramento's on my mind. That's why. Dewsbury Hall, and
he's on all of our minds all the time. He's a beautiful man. He looks like a Roman gladiator with his big chin. Like, if you look at his chin and his beard, and then our man Broya from his old teammate and his chin, like, he's got a proper chin, what I would call a proper chin. There could be brothers, like, they're both these big gladiatorial chins and beards, and man, I love Tino Livramento.
But yeah, with a lot of these players, it feels like last chance saloons for a lot of them, especially with Wirtz ahead of this Everton game. A little bit definitely with Watkins, but a little bit with Wood to an extent. But then he does have Sunderland the next week, and it's a home game as well. And Sunderland are a bit weaker away from home, I tend to think. So yeah, it's one of those things. I could free hit, but I take on board your point, Andrew, about in game week 6 I could free hit. I take on board your point about maybe transferring in Haaland, but it's just whether or not it's worth doing that, because if Watkins comes good against Sunderland, will we want to just get him out straight away? Possibly. So that could be my route to Haaland. Do you think you'd make any transfers here, Kanji, or would you sort of stay
no way. I'd roll. I mean, defense looks fine. No worries. And maybe you could play Murillo ahead of Chalobah, maybe.
And just chance that Murillo's back?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he'll cameo. No way. Right? Yeah. So either he starts or he doesn't play. So I would start Murillo and then Chalobah first defensive bench. So yeah, you kind of just switch it the way it is. And also, like, can you afford, like, this is like a transfer plan, just an idea, but could you afford Salah, Wirtz, and Watkins to Palmer, Ndiaye, and Haaland? Like, could you afford those 3? We wouldn't do it this week, but I'm just curious to see if you could afford those 3 moves: Ndiaye, Palmer, and Haaland.
I think that would work out financially.
I mean, so what was that? Wirtz, Watkins, and
Salah.
Big Mo. Yeah.
Yeah, you wouldn't do it this week. I'm just curious to see if you can afford it. Like,
I did think about getting instead of getting Paqueta, I did consider getting Grealish, because you were talking about Grealish and Ndiaye earlier, and I did consider Grealish, but in the end didn't go for it. And it's good that I didn't with that Everton game being goalless. But yeah, I think I can probably just about afford it.
I can't believe you're not typing these names into the Finder player. You've got to be a professional, Roberto. This is a professional channel.
This is where I forget that I was sharing my screen. I thought I wasn't sharing my screen, so I could get away with it. But yeah, I'm just sort of considering it as I'm doing it. So what was the striker you said, Kanji?
Haaland.
Big Erling. And then that would leave with me with 7.5. So yeah, I could get someone in around
you can
that
go
price.
Grealish and whoever you want. Yeah, wow, that's actually really solid. I would make that move in 6 for a hit.
Well, yeah, this is the thing. It would make me have Palmer for, I mean, those
Brighton.
fixtures into Brighton. Maybe a bit of history repeating itself after last time, potentially. But the thing is, I look at that and I just think, like, how much will I want Mo back? Like, quite soon. I know that there's been a lot of slander towards Mo in this episode, and I understand it to an extent, but yeah, it's just how much. The problem I've got is I like all of the premiums. So as much as like I can put a few premiums in at one stage, I just feel like I'll be changing it around very soon after that. So, how long is a premium plan? Like, I just think it's like how long is a piece of string? It can change from day to day.
Well, if you want to keep Salah, you should free hit in 6 then.
Yeah, but
continue to bet against Haaland. Like, that's the thing. You got to really pick your poison.
It's one to consider with the free hit, because is there a better opportunity to use it in the first 19 game weeks? I'm not sure. Not sure if there is. But you did mention, Andrew, that week about bench boosting in game week 15. There are a lot of good fixtures there in general. So I could, if I wanted to, potentially leave the free hit for that week as well and try and navigate it a different way. But don't know whether you think that.
What I would say is, if you took a hit to get Haaland in for game week 6, triple captained him, and then took a hit to get Salah back in game week 7, which I don't know why you'd need to do it that quickly anyway, but if you did, I still think you'd come out far further ahead than if you use your free hit or if you kept Salah. Like, you're talking about, I don't know how it'll feel without Salah in the team. How's it going to feel when you look at everybody else's team and they've got a nice big fat 60 next to Haaland because of triple captained him, 63 because of triple captained him for 4 goals, Burnley at home, and Haaland is hungry. He is ready to feast. He is the kitchen.
That might be the title of this episode. Haaland is the kitchen. It's definitely one to consider, and I'll see if his culinary talents.
What's the worst that happens if it goes wrong? How many points do you think you'd lose if you spent 8 points transferring Haaland in for 1 game week? Liverpool are away to Crystal Palace, and they're a bogey team for Liverpool.
Yeah. And like, you've got money in the bank to get to Arsenal defense for next week in game week 7 as well. Like, the plan works very well for you, in my opinion.
Game week 7, Liverpool are away at Chelsea, whereas Man City are away at Brentford. So again, you'd rather have Haaland that week, so then you can add extra points on that week. Game week 8 is probably when you'd start. Liverpool versus Man United or Man City versus Everton. You could easily keep Haaland for that one as well. And now you're starting to wonder if, like, the whole having Salah is a bit of a mass delusion that everyone is focusing in on because they've just always had him. But what evidence is there that Salah is worth keeping over Haaland? It's not the form, it's not the fixtures, it's not the points, it's not even the price. Like, there's no justification.
I think it's the history. That's what it is. It's the comfort blanket of knowing he's done it in the past, and you just stick by him and he delivers. Even last week, right? We had people saying, "Oh, if Salah blanks against Burnley, he's gone straight out of their team." And the fact is, yes, it wasn't as good as Haaland, but it was still, nice to get that captaincy return. And
bro, he did nothing. And he still got 9 points.
I know,
imagine what it's going to be like when he does well.
That's what I
know. That's what I'm saying. So, like, when Liverpool start playing well, this guy's going to pick up like 15, 20 points in games. Like, I know he will. So it's like that. You have to go back there. That's the thing.
But why?
It's hard.
Why carry him until he starts hitting them points? He's £14.5 million. That's almost a sixth of the budget. Why carry him? Like, just sell him until he starts doing that and then get him back in. You might miss out on 8 points. If Haaland gets 1 goal and Salah gets a hat-trick, you're going to maybe miss out on, 8 points, 9 points or something. It's not going to be an awful lot. Maybe a bit more if you factor in captaincy. But then, you know, how many are you going to gain in the meantime while you wait for Salah to remember how to control the football? You know?
Can I show you this? Can I show you the Salah argument? Can you, like, reset it and look at Salah's fixtures?
One thing I have noticed as well is if I did get Grealish in, I'm not sure if I would want double Everton in midfield. That feels a little bit overkill. I don't know, but
that's true. Click Salah's fixtures and look at the weeks coming up, bro. Like, if you go full profile,
they're not great.
And, like,
I'll be honest.
No. Wait. Like, let's assume if you keep Salah, you're free hitting in 6, so you don't get the Palace fixture, right? In 7, you'd have to captain a Man United player. That's the thing. But in 8, we've seen how poor United have been playing. In 9, Brentford are going to be one of the bottom 5 teams in the league. Aston Villa have been poor to start the season, and then you need another captain for game week 11. That's it. So, like, you can literally keep Mo, but it depends how you see it.
Like, I'm happy riding with him, but it's just if I want to be really pernickety, I could say, oh yeah, prefer.
Great word, pernickety.
But, you know, I think it comes down to my gut, and my gut is telling me at the moment Team Mo, but we'll see how things develop. We are going to get
maybe what your gut's telling you is Imodium. No, what I think would have been interesting is if we had a graphic showing Salah's performances before signing the new contract and then after signing the new contract, because there is a remarkable correlation with the drop off there. Now he's got another 3 years of, you know, £35 million a year sealed or whatever. Yeah.
Well, it looks like I'm rolling. It looks like Kanji's rolling. Are you planning on rolling, Andrew, in Game Week 5?
I might take a -12 just for the fun. No, I don't know. I can't see. You haven't got my team up on the screen. No, I am rolling. My official advice to everyone is if you can field 11 players, roll, because I feel like Game Week 5 is just a bit of a minefield. I don't think anybody has got a good game. I don't think you can look at any player and say this player is going to do well this week without adding, but what if they don't? You know, like Watkins is going to do great this week, but he's not done great all season, so maybe he won't. You know, Chris Wood, he's against his old team. They're terrible. He's going to do great this week, but does his new manager fancy him? Yeah, I just feel like Liverpool, they're all going to do great, but Isak's going to get minutes. So where's he getting the minutes? Who's dropping out? I mean, you could even drop Mo Salah for
relax.
I'm not saying you would, but at some point, you know, you can't keep relying on a fading force in his mid-30s to play 90 minutes every week. You just can't. This is exactly what people said about De Bruyne. Oh, his style will carry him through the season. All he needs to do is he doesn't even need to move. He can put the ball exactly where he wants it. De Bruyne was undroppable right up until the moment he wasn't. And at some point that moment will come for Salah. The question is it going to be now? I actually thought he'd be rested last week and Chiesa would have played last week because he's not getting dropped for the derby. I would suggest you don't even want to start Isak for the derby because, you know, I just think that's a bad game to see. You want to bring the new £125 million man on in the derby to turn it around when you're 2-1 down to, Tarkowski and Grealish. And then you bring on Isak off the bench, get the crowd going, and then he gets the debut equaliser, probably from a dodgy penalty. And, you know, everyone walks away happy.
But, so all in all, Andrew, you making a change in Game Week 5?
We're on a bit of a meander there, haven't I? No, my point was... Well, no, because that is my point. That there is nobody worth signing this week that you can be sure is going to be great. Like last week, you could be sure that Haaland was going to be great against Man United because he always is. You know, you can look at most game weeks like Leeds. Let's target Leeds. Well, it's Wolves. Are you going to bring in Hwang? You know, or likewise, are you going to bring in Calvert-Lewin? Well, we'll get to that in my differentials pick shortly. Crystal Palace are playing West Ham. You could bring in Mateta, but then next week it's tougher games. Next week it's Liverpool. So do you really want to be signing these players? So my official advice to everybody is if you've got 11 starters, just go with it. I actually think you'd be better off starting with 10 players and keeping your transfer for next week.
What about like Sorry.
Especially if you don't have Haaland.
Exactly. But what about, for example, Cunha to Semenyo? Semenyo is a great long-term pick. I mean, unless you're looking to hold on.
Well, it's funny you should say that because I am actually going to bring in Semenyo.
I knew it. Yo, Semenyo is so good, bro.
I've got 2 free transfers though, so I'm still rolling a transfer. But this is why I took the gamble last week, because I wanted to be sure of what to do. And I mean, I don't need to bring him in. Like, let's face it, I could wait another week, because what I'm talking about is bringing in an inconsistent player who has started well, but he is notoriously inconsistent last season. He'd get big hauls and then he'd go quiet. So I'm talking about bringing in an inconsistent ex-Sunderland player against my team. And it just doesn't feel great doing that. It never feels great. Like, would you really like signing someone against Liverpool, Kanji?
No, I wouldn't. And to be honest, Newcastle you've been the #1 defense in the league according to the data, so it's not a good entry point.
Roberto, if Watford ever get back up to the Premier League in 10 years, would you fancy bringing in somebody to play them, or would you just wait a week?
It depends if they're Mo Salah, but if they're not, they're probably wouldn't.
I just feel like maybe I should have brought him in last week, but I feel like I needed to see another haul. And like the penalties thing is a big game changer, And Bournemouth have got a good record against Newcastle, more specifically against Eddie Howe, who has got a terrible record against Bournemouth. And we're playing Barcelona on Thursday night, and I do think my official prediction is Bournemouth win that game. And that's why I'm probably starting. Well, I will be starting Senesi, and I'll probably bring in Semenyo for, I don't know who for, Sarr probably. I feel Sarr's probably more sellable than Cunha. But really, I want rid of both. But I don't know. I just feel like, I mean, I'm thinking at the minute of benching Cucurella against Man United, and it's purely because of the rotation risk, or benching Barnes against, or Rangers against Arsenal, or Barnes against Bournemouth. But I feel like all of them players could do well. So
wait, hold on a second. Barnes, don't you think he's the player to start though? Because like Bournemouth versus Newcastle should be a back and forth game, you'd assume, right?
Yeah, but Barnes has been terrible this season. Like he's been he's been really off the pace, but his wife has only just given birth, so you wonder if that's maybe been playing on his mind. And of course, I expect Gordon to start against Barcelona because he isn't suspended for that game. And the way we beat them is on the counter with pace. So Barnes is pretty much secure to start, unless he plays Alanga and Murphy. But I guess they're both right wingers, so I can't see him starting either of them over Barnes. But then he did bench Barnes against Leeds, didn't he? So who knows with Eddie Howe? He sometimes works in mysterious ways, but I've not seen anything from Barnes, and it might be that I do Barnes to Semenyo and then keep the 2 injured players just for a laugh, just so I don't feel like, I don't have to look at them points on my bench. But no, I feel like it'll probably be Sarr to Semenyo, but maybe it'll be Cunha, and then
could be anyone. Okay, we are going to dive into our differentials now. And Trophy Mo last time had a few different ones. He had Bowen, who didn't quite work out against Tottenham. And to be honest, I don't think I've actually written them down because I think they were that unmemorable. So, it's a blank slate. Let's go again and look ahead to game week 5. So starting off, Kanji, what 2 differentials have you got under 10% for game week 5?
You can pull up the Crystal Palace team. I'm going to go with their starting center back. His name is Maxence Lacroix. I think his ownership is just ridiculous. Like, I think this guy should be at like 15-20% ownership. It's kind of disrespectful, but maybe as the game goes on further and further, they'll see this 5.0 guy pick up the same amount of points as Munoz-ish, and they'll be like, wow, maybe I'll bring him in. But for now, with the fixture, West Ham have been very poor this year, even though I have Paqueta in my team. I think Crystal Palace have been on this ridiculous undefeated streak, like 15 games in a row in all comps, undefeated. And it's based on the defense. So that would be my number one differential. And then I don't know if Chris Richards is like is he under 10%? I'd definitely go for him too.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, I'd take both for sure.
Yeah, he certainly is 2.1%. I mean, you've gone simple, but you've gone effective. Two defenders. Do you think this is going to be a repeat of what we saw in Game Week 4? A few clean sheets flying about, because away from home, is that maybe a tougher one to keep a clean sheet? Although it is West Ham.
Bro, West Ham are poor. I'm happy to back against them every time.
I mean, Richards is very cheap, isn't he? I mean, he's 0.5 cheaper than Lacroix, so I like it. Do you think there is routes to DEFCON points? Because he was someone, Andrew, at the start of the season, a lot of people had sort of in their drafts, but whether or not he can kind of match the DEFCON might of Lacroix.
I think he's a perfectly reasonable option, but I think there are better ones at 4.5 million. I mean, for an extra 0.1, you can get Senesi. You've got Agbadu, who I feel is woefully overlooked by a lot of people, especially when you consider the fixtures he's got. All 3 promoted teams in the next 5 games. You've got Joachim Anderson, who, you know, is a bit of a Marmite character, but he's certainly there. I feel like if you wanted a Palace defender, you either go for the DEFCONs of Lacroix or the attacking threat of Munoz. I don't think you really clart on with Richards, but maybe if you want double Palace defence, you could get him.
Yeah, definitely. What are you thinking in terms of your differentials, Andrew? Under 10% owned?
Mine are very much lower than 10% owned. I've thought long and hard about this, and it is an awkward week for them. I am going to say, assuming he starts and assuming Strand Larsen isn't fit, I'm going to say Hwang Hee-chan.
Damn.
Wow. So you were just slating it a second ago, and now you.
Yeah, I wouldn't sign him, but if it was for 1 week against Leeds at home, I actually think Wolves are a lot better than the league position tells the story of. I thought they were very impressive against Newcastle for about 60 broken minutes on the weekend but we just had a little bit too much for them with that one goal from Voltemade, who, you know, if you fancy a gamble, Voltemade against Bournemouth, why not? Evan Nilsson, another great option against a tired Newcastle. But no, my official pick is Hwang Hee-chan. He's got 2 returns in 2 since Strand Larsen's injury, a goal and an assist, I believe, unless I've misrepresented that. I'm going to have to quickly look.
Oh, I think he's just got 1 return, I believe.
No, that can't be right. That can't. It is right, but it's a goal. So where did I get that from? Anyway, the point is, he got a goal at home against Everton in his start, and now he is at home to Leeds. Also, he would have got a return against Newcastle if it wasn't for Nick Pope's wonder saves. He played really well, Hwang, and you wouldn't want him for a long time, but I think if you got him this week, you'd have a good time.
Yeah. Okay, I like it.
The other one, I've mentioned Voltemade, I've mentioned Evan Nilsson, but they're a bit predictable. Everyone will be looking at them, especially if Voltemade puts Barcelona to the sword. Like that's the big caveat. If Voltemade gets a couple of goals against Barcelona, we'll all be rushing for him. It'll be hard not to at 7 million because, you know, rotation is going to be a risk at Chelsea. But my other one, I can't believe I'm saying this, but why not? Why not? Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Now, I know. I just think he looks hungrier. Like, I feel like he's a player renewed and he looks selfish. He looks greedy. Like he's shooting from everywhere and he's playing Wolves. And I don't know. I just fancy you could, if you were told that match was 1-1 and Hwang and Calvert-Lewin had scored the goals, and they've got 9 points and 8 points each, it wouldn't be a surprise, would it? So that would be the one. Like, this is just pure eye test vibes. What I've seen of him in brief fits and spells. I think he came on in the second round of the Carabao Cup, and he had about 4 chances. And now it was a lower league team. I can't remember who it was. Some no-hopers. I don't know who. I always call a team no-hopers on a stream, and I always get in trouble for it.
No, that's all good.
Colin was telling me off for saying Vert scored a free kick against some no-hopers because apparently it was Northern Ireland. I don't know. I didn't know. If I've not done my research, I'll just call them no-hopers and take the algorithm boost from the complaints. but I thought Calvert-Lewin looked good. I feel like he's getting himself into the positions to score. I feel like he'll be on penalties. I don't think he'll get 90 minutes, but like, I feel dirty saying it because I know what I understand that reaction, Kanji, because when I realized I was going to say him, I felt the same way about myself. I looked in the mirror and had to take a step back. That's why I caveated it with Voltemada and Evan Nilsson beforehand, because I know.
You gotta go for it, and if it ends up egg on your face, then that will be what will be. But I think it's nice, this is why they're differential, and it's nice to take some risks. So I put Dan James in last week, and that was not a good one from me.
As if you would choose a Leeds attacker in a differentials game. Who do you think you are, Roberto?
Honestly, I don't know what I was thinking. But
who would
anyway,
name a Leeds attacker?
Well, we move to my 2 differentials this week. My first one is someone from Tottenham. And I know that we were saying about, Spurs, they played well. They did play well against West Ham. And a lot of people are talking about this guy. The fixture against Brighton, I think, is very good for attacking returns. But I think Pap Sarr is going a little bit under the radar. I think he's very cheap, and yes, the DEFCON points maybe aren't going to be that consistent, but I think at that price, if he could pop up with a few more returns, he's already had 2 this season, and he's got Brighton in game week 5. I quite like this one. Do you share my enthusiasm, Kanji?
I don't know, bro. I'd rather not see anything.
What I would say, Roberto, is if you're picking the likes of Pap Sarr, it's probably a good thing you're not on a wild card this week.
Wow.
I thought you were going to go for Xavi Simons, and I was going to say, I can see the appeal, but I feel like it's too early because we don't know what he's going to do for minutes. He's got the Champions League this week, maybe a bit early, and then you come up with Pap Sarr, and I'm like, well, I don't really know what to say here, except it just would not be my choice. I think you could probably pick about 10 other players in that Spurs team that I'd have ahead of him in this sort of differentials thing, but that's why we do it. It's a game of opinions. You might be right, or you might be like Dan James last week. Who knows?
Well, this is the thing. We'll have to wait and see who's got the spoils. Now, of course, Burnley face Nottingham Forest this week, and there are a few interesting Forest assets under 10%. So my second one I've got for this week is Mr. Morgan Gibbs-White. I think Gibbs-White this week, I've been very surprised how little he's done this season, because he always, tends to pop up and look dangerous. And yes, people might say Forest are in free fall and we don't know what's going to happen. But I honestly think if there's anyone that's going to drag them back into a bit of form, it is going to be this man. He's 7.5 million, so it's a little bit pricey potentially. But with those fixtures coming up, I think with someone like Gibbs-White, who's going to be central to a lot of what they do, that's good. I think he could be that talismanic figure. And as we were saying earlier, Wood being subbed off, maybe he might just kind of fade into the background a little bit more in these next couple of games, and Gibbs-White might take that mantle. So yeah, I think it could be a nice one. The next segment we've got is we have our little differential captain. So if you had
no opinions on Gibbs-White.
I think everyone knows how good of a pick he is, and that he's bound to return this week. But captaincy wise, we like to give us a differential segment on captaincy, so someone that's not in like a premium price bracket. So Kanji, what are you thinking with that on your differential?
We can go right back to Crystal Palace. I'm gonna go for their striker, the man that's on the penalties, the guy that had more XGI than João Pedro and Voltemata combined last week, in Jean-Philippe Mateta.
I like it. He is that right price that you can get away with this one, because he wasn't that heavily. I thought he was going to be more heavily captained last week in Sunderland, and he wasn't actually in the end. But yeah, I mean, West Ham is as good as fixture as any really at the moment, and yeah, he has got that potential, hasn't he, on penalties to explode in any given game. Do you think Mateta, Andrew, is actual genuine captaincy sort of potential this week?
Oh, definitely. I mean, it's West Ham, the absolute no hopers. You know, until Graham Potter is inevitably sacked in 3 or 4 weeks' time, you might as well target West Ham, because they're giving out free FPL points. You know, it's like it's a raffle, but everyone wins a prize. So I would not discourage anyone from backing Mateta this week. I would discourage people from captaining Watkins against Sunderland or Wood against Burnley, but I would not discourage people from backing Mateta as captain. Great choice.
Absolutely. And what about you, Andrew? What are you thinking for your differential captain?
Well, I'm a bit relieved, really, because I thought Kanji had stolen my thunder. But if we stick on Crystal Palace, I would go for Maxence Lacroix as captain.
I like it.
Right? No, wait. West Ham are terrible at set pieces. What happened last week? You had a haul from Romero, which should have been even greater. You had a haul from Van der Ven. West Ham concede set pieces like fun, and they concede goals from them. And Lacroix, I noticed he doesn't have a lot of goals in his repertoire so far, but he does have the DEFCON points. So if you think he gets a clean sheet, that's 6 points. DEFCON points, 8 points. Can he get a goal for 14 points? I think he could. If he's going to, it's going to be against West Ham from a set piece. And then 3 bonus points, that's 17 points. Can he get 2 goals? 23 points, you know? It wouldn't surprise you. It's not crazy to me that 2 defenders could score. Like, you could get 2 defender goals against West Ham. It's just happened. Or it should have done if it wasn't for the thing. So Lacroix is my pick. And before you completely dismiss it, in 3 out of the opening 4 game weeks, the top scoring player has been a defender. So could that trend continue with Lacroix against West Ham? A defender with attacking threat from a corner against a team that loves to concede goals from corners to defenders. You know, even if you had him and you couldn't get to Lacroix, even Chris Richards, same thing. I'm not telling you to captain a third choice 4.5 million centre half, but I'm just not telling you not to.
Yeah, that
would be my differential, because what you've also got to remember is it's a very difficult week for captaincy. Like,
it is, yeah.
Pedro's a good one, but he's away at Man United, which is an easy fixture, but it shouldn't be, and at some point it won't be. And you know, Haaland's at Arsenal, Gyökeres is against Man City, Liverpool's in a derby, and the attack isn't sorted. Newcastle are away at Bournemouth. Bournemouth are playing Newcastle, who are a great defence. There's just no real great options, and especially with it being the first week of Europe and of the Champions League, and the Carabao Cup has been in action. We don't know what rotation is going to happen.
Yeah.
But we know that the centre-backs are probably going to start. I don't know. I just like Lacroix. I've got a feeling.
Yeah.
And if I do use my second transfer, which I'm not ruling out, it will probably be to do Cucurella to Lacroix.
This could be the week to do something different for captaincy. I mean, as you said, there's a lack of options, and maybe Maxence is your pick. Well, one fixture we've not actually mentioned yet that takes place in Gameweek 5 is Fulham against Brentford, and I do think that Brentford attackers might be being underlooked a little bit, and overlooked, I should say. But and one player who I think started in really good form, is Thiago. So if you want to go for a differential captain, I think Thiago, away to Fulham, he's got 2 goals in his first 4 matches, and he's less than 2% owned, and he's pretty cheap as well. So, he's not too hard to fit into your team. And for someone on penalties that plays a decent fixture, I don't hate it for a captaincy. I think he could well be someone. Just that consistency is all we need with strikers. And I think there's been a lot of decent strikers, but that not too many of them have done it for multiple weeks outside of the likes of João Pedro and maybe Haaland. So yeah, I think Thiago is my differential captain this week. So do you like that, Kanji? Do you think that's worth a punt?
I mean, I think it'd be worth the punt in game week 8 for sure. In game week 5, I'm not so sure. But I considered him a lot on wildcard. So if he gets the return, it'll hurt me, because that means I could have owned him instead of Evan Nielsen, and it also will break my clean sheet. So I'll be cheering against him with my whole heart this weekend.
Yeah, well, we'll see how that one goes. But definitely an interesting week as well for the mini league. Thanks for those that did get involved in that. Obviously, with it being a head-to-head league, you couldn't join after the first game week because they sort of lock in. But Andrew, I'm afraid you lost your last fixture by 1 point, 67-68 to Alexander McDonald. So,
if I'm going to lose to anyone, I'm glad it's Alexander McDonald, because he is a name to be respected and a name for his rivals to fear over the rest of the season.
Exactly.
He is my tip to win the entire league.
Well, talking of winning the entire league, Chris has started this season as he ended the last, because he once again got a win, but it was a very narrow one, 62-60 against No Life for Life, the losers was the team name for that. So yeah, Chris just doesn't know how to lose at this point. I got a very narrow loss to GW5 60-58, which was very frustrating with that -4 in consideration. And a few other interesting results. We had 101 points from FC Kulabivica. So some very high scoring teams in there. Be interesting to see how game week 5 develops. And certainly looking at some of the fixtures, we got some tasty matchups. I'm up against Suzuki Pullet, and Chris has got a matchup, which, to be fair, I don't think anyone would be surprised if he won it again in game week 5. But we are going to now end on the pod with our quiz. So it's only right that for this pod, I've got sort of themes rounds, really. So I've got 2 rounds, and with Andrew's Newcastle allegiance and Kanji's Liverpool, that famous game last season, it all brings back the memories. So the first round is going to be basically, and it will both questions will be hot potato. So you won't
take turns.
Yeah, you'll take turns. You won't need a buzzer, and it will be back and forth basically to kind of see who gets the first wrong answer. So, of course, we'll start with Newcastle Liverpool.
I must say, I watched last week's episode. I was very disappointed how many Liverpool players Kanji missed. How could you besmirch the legacy of Sean Dundee?
Bro, people message me in my group chats. They're like, bro, I think your ball knowledge went down after last week's quiz.
I think it just shows how young and fruitful you are and what a lovely long life ahead of you have, unlike someone like me who lived through these players and, has less time left on the planet because I'm old. Yeah. I'm past halfway of the life expectancy. It's a downward spiral for me. I'm just hoping for a bit of injury time at the end of it.
Well, we are going to.
This is gone.
It's going interesting direction. We are going to actually do something which I thought I had prepared, and then as my phone refreshed, the quiz disappeared. So we're going instead down the avenue of basically Champions League started up again this week. So what I want to know from Andrew and Kanji...
Can you not just press back? I want to do this proper quiz, the Liverpool Newcastle one. And I know Liverpool is Kanji's weak spot in his knowledge from last week. So
Sorry, I can't seem to.
Look in the history. Look in the history.
No, it'll probably be there. It'll be there. Actually, it's coming up now. It's coming up now. So I can give it to you, Andrew, just for you.
We'll do both. Do both.
But basically, whilst I find it, we can start with the other one. So, the Champions League starting up again. So I want to know if Kanji and Andrew can name the top 20 penalty scorers in Champions League history. So think back to some of the iconic names in Champions League and those iconic players taking spot kicks. So we're going to, as I said, what I'll do actually is I'm going to do a random number generator. So because Kanji is below me, second on the camera, he's going to be for odd numbers, for even numbers, and then we're going to have Andrew with him sat third down. He's going to be for odd numbers. So we're going to roll a dice, and we have got the number 5. So that means that Andrew is going to go first on this one. Okay, so trying to name
for the legitimacy of the quiz, so people know that I'm not Googling the answers. I'm keeping my hands on the screen at all time. I can see Kanji's got his phone going underneath the camera.
I
trust you, Kanji. Don't you worry.
Don't worry.
I know people don't necessarily trust me. So, what you want me to name someone?
Yeah, go for it, Andrew.
Cristiano Ronaldo.
Damn.
That's a great way to start. Top of the list with 19 penalties scored. Okay, it's over to you then, Kanji.
Is Salah there?
Mohamed Salah is correct. Well done. He's on the list. It's over back to you again, Andrew.
I'm going to have to... Lewandowski.
Lewandowski is a great answer. Also on 19. So very well done.
That was really good. What about Lionel Messi?
Lionel Messi, of course. 18 on the list. It's over to Andrew again.
He was the one that was originally came to mind in the last round, but I wasn't quite sure how many penalties he actually is taking. And I just remembered seeing a clip of him trying a Panenka and the keeper's saving it the other day, so it put me off. So now I need to think of somebody else. Do we have a figure? Are we allowed a figure for like the lowest amount of penalties scored? Or is that too much of a clue?
No, I can be generous. I can give you that. The lowest number of penalties scored on the list is 6. So there's going to be a lot of players joint on that, but that is the lowest number for you.
And it's penalties in the Champions League.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right. I'm going to have to, like, if we think about it, you want these teams that have played over several years, because obviously you get a lot. And in recent years, they keep increasing the fixtures. So I think a lot of these players will be quite modern. Now, you see, it's like I could tell you goal scorers. Like I could say Thomas Muller, but did he even take penalties?
I was going to say that.
I'm not going with it. I'm going to take a chance, and I'm going to say Raul.
Raul is your
Real
answer.
Madrid.
Okay.
And I feel like this should have been my 5th answer. Like my last penalty taker in the shootout. I feel like I've shot my load too early with Raul.
I think for this penalty shootout quiz, you've got your goalkeeper to take your next penalty, and unfortunately he's ballooned it over the bar, because I'm afraid that is incorrect. And your gut feeling that you said of Thomas Muller would have been correct. So,
well, no, do we not continue until like Kanji beats me, like a penalty shootout?
Well,
Kanji might get one wrong here.
That's true. My next answer was going to be Mbappe. So
Kylian Mbappe is
I'm
correct.
Sure he's taken some pens.
Yeah, he's on 8. So,
bro, when you said 6 was the lowest, I'm like, all right, Mbappe definitely has 6.
Well done, Kanji. An early lead.
Frustrating that.
Oh, so you've hit the post there, Andrew.
Mbappe was such an obvious one, but I thought, well, has he played enough seasons to really be in this list? But then it's like six penalties. Stupid. hubristic move. I'm disappointed. I hope there's 3 rounds, so I've got a chance to get back into this because I'm not going to live this down. And neither I have to win this for young Chris because of course I destroyed young Chris last time. And how will he ever be able to show his face again if Kanji beats me?
Well, the great thing is you might be disappointed now, Andrew, but you can be boosted by the appearance of the question you wanted up first of Newcastle and Liverpool, of course, fought out in that iconic EFL Cup final with Newcastle getting the trophy. So can you think back to previous EFL Cup winners? We're going for every EFL Cup winner, as far as you can remember, since 1961. So this will just be a matter of, as I said, as with the last one, naming it until someone gets one wrong. And because Andrew went first last time, Kanji, I'm going to let you kick us off with any teams you can remember winning the EFL Cup.
Yeah, no worries. Manchester City.
Manchester City is correct. It's on the list, of course. They won it, of course, in 2020 to 21, just as one example. Over to you, Andrew.
I feel like I have been misled here. I thought this was going to be some sort of Newcastle versus Liverpool thing. Now it's something I've got no real knowledge of because as a Newcastle fan, trophy winners aren't my specialty. But I'm gonna find a way. I'm going to dig deep, and I am going to start. Who did you say? Man City.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Man United.
Manchester United is correct, of course, beating Newcastle in that final in 2022-23. Back over to Kanji.
Liverpool.
Liverpool is correct, of course, as recently as 23-24, winning it then against the £1 billion bottle jobs. Over to Andrew.
Probably should have. Is this winners ever? Or does it
61 since 61
until today?
Correct.
Well, I'll say Newcastle.
Damn.
Oh, we are the holders.
Yeah,
I can't believe that wasn't the first
I was waiting for that. I thought you go first.
I was surprised you didn't use that earlier, but yes, of course, Newcastle is correct in the question. Over to you, Kanji.
Chelsea.
Chelsea is correct.
Up to Chelsea.
2014-15. Back over to you, Andrew.
Have we said Arsenal yet?
We have not. Is that what you're going for?
It might as well be.
All right. They did win it in 1992-93. So that is bang on. Famously, Arsene Wenger never pulled away with an EFL Cup trophy, although he's found ways to get the FA Cup.
I do feel like I've got a bit lucky there because I was sure Arsenal must have won it more recently. But of course, in 92-93, they famously beat Sheffield Wednesday in both cup finals. I actually remember watching it in Turkey. I was on holiday in Turkey watching it and thinking, bloody hell, that's just quite a bizarre turn of events. And then, of course, Steve Morrow scored the goal and was lifted up, and then his teammate dropped him and he broke his arm and missed the other cup final. Quite funny.
A nice little bit of info there from Andrew, and it gives Kanji a little time to think about his answer. So, Kanji, what's your next one?
Yeah, now I'm just like shooting from like the halfway line. So I'm gonna start going with Brighton. That Brighton won it before.
Wow. I mean, Brighton and Hove Albion is certainly an interesting destination to go, where there was, quite a few other teams we haven't talked about yet, and I can confirm that is incorrect. So, Andrew, what was your next answer going to be, just to seal it home?
Well, do you know what? I feel like I might reel off a list of names just to appear like a big head.
Let him flex.
What I will say, I will go with Middlesbrough.
Middlesbrough is a fantastic answer. 2003-4 season, they picked it up. Any more?
Well, I was going to say Sunderland, but now I'm thinking that was the 76 FA Cup, so I will rescind my previous arrogance and retire as smug. Spurs would be one.
Yeah, Tottenham was right.
Was it Juan de Ramos?
70. They got 70s for Tottenham. I think also 98-99 was also was the other occasion, and 07-08.
Juan de Ramos then. Oh, that was Juan de Ramos.
That was Wando Ramos. But yeah, there was also the likes of Swansea, Birmingham City, and also no one said Leicester City. They were in 99, 2000, and yeah, some other answers there. I mean, even going further back, we had the likes of Wolves, Aston Villa, Nottingham Forest. So well done, Andrew. You got yourself level, and it goes on to the final question, which is going to be an FPL themed question.
This is where the problems start.
Well, luckily it's not you know, how well have each of you done in FPL, because I'm afraid Kanji would win so far this season, hands down, on that sort of category. But no, it's instead going to be about forwards in the game. So we've talked all about the likes of Haaland, the likes of Pedro, the likes of Gyökeres in this episode. But I want you to name me a forward who is currently on just 1 point this season. So in the game, just 1 point. So they can't have picked too much. They might have played a few games or got sent off or something like that. But someone who's been injury prone, someone who's struggled, a forward with a 1 point total so far this season. And I'm going to let Andrew kick us off because
the
last one, yeah.
Mark Gooey.
Mark Gooey is on 2 points.
Oh, yeah, here we go.
If Andy doesn't get this, then you're back in, Andrew. So
yeah, to be fair,
I was sure he'd only had one sub appearance.
Yeah, me too. Wow. Damn.
What are you thinking, Angie?
All right, I think I'm gonna get this wrong, but I'll go for it. Let's go with Krupi Jr.
Krupi Jr. is what you've gone for. He's Bournemouth's Krupi Jr. He is on 3 points. So that means it carries on, and Andrew is back in the game. Okay, Andrew. Feel anyone else with a 1 point return so far?
Roberto, what we need now is one of your legendary rambles talking about all the like something completely unrelated, so I can have a moment to breathe. Because the answer is I have nobody in mind just yet. But
okay.
Like,
I can give you
my mind's going. I need a little bit of time.
But my mind is down at some point.
Pardon?
I might start counting down at some point. You know, the clock might have to be put.
Why don't you talk about what's on next week's show for a second? Gabriel Jesus.
He went very confident there.
I wasn't confident, belying my confidence.
Gabriel Jesus is expected back on the 30th of December. I'm afraid, Angie, it's over to you. Can you snatch victory here?
Yeah, I have no clue. I'm just going to go for cheap strikers. Let's go with Marshall from West Ham.
Marshall. I'm afraid that is incorrect. I'm going to give you guys a clue. Okay.
How many strikers have 1 point?
Like one guy, maybe.
It's about seven strikers.
Ooh.
So
how many of them are worth above £6 million?
None.
One of them is above 6 million. My clue to you is this player has played at Chelsea before, and also has played. Another one of these players has played at Leicester before. So Chelsea striker used to be at Chelsea.
Different clues.
Yeah, and one of them used to be at Leicester, and he's is
it just a random shout out now?
Yeah, go for it.
As the quiz degenerates into farce, I will say Solanke.
Oh,
that's not a bad shout, but he's on 2. So Kanji.
Damn.
Roberto, this is a bad question.
Yeah, this is a tough one. Yeah. Bro,
think about the clue I gave.
Vardy's not in the league anymore.
Chelsea and Leicester.
Chelsea. I
don't
have anything, bro. I don't have anything. The Chelsea clue is probably the best one. I'm thinking Armando Broja, if I had to pick one.
Is that what you're going for?
Yeah.
You would be correct.
Let's go!
Well done. Armando Broja was the one I was trying to hint. We also had Kai Havertz, who was the other one, former Chelsea.
I knew there was an Arsenal one.
Yeah.
And
the Leicester clue was Odsonne Edouard. Palace. He's actually not in the league at the moment, but he was at the start of the season because he came on for 2 minutes in game week 2 against Nottingham Forest for Palace. So well done. It's a very slim victory for Kanji there. But very well done.
It's so funny because like Andrew came into the podcast. He's like, all right, I'm going to win the quiz easily after watching last week's, right? And now he's lost.
But Brian Brobby of Sunderland and what Leslie Uche of Crystal Palace and Seamas. Like, how are you meant to know these people? Like, it is what it is. I don't feel I lost on that question. I feel I lost when I went with Raul. I was trying to show off in the same way, like when I went with Middlesbrough. I was trying to do the same with Raul and show off my historical knowledge, and now I look like a tit.
It is what it is, Andrew. You know, you win some, you lose some. And after beating Chris, last time out, maybe you needed to, feel what it was like to taste defeat. But no, in all seriousness, thanks again. It's good fun to get you on always, Andrew, and I really
enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much for coming on, and Kanji, I hope you enjoyed the episode as well.
Yeah, I loved it. It's my favorite one that we filmed so far.
Great stuff. Brilliant. And yeah, really, really thanks again, Andrew, for coming on. And good luck with Game Week 5, everyone. We're going to have some exciting episodes coming up. On the next one, we've got all the best members of the FPL community here on the TFIT pod. But we're going to be having up next, hopefully, FPL Draft Zone and potentially even FPL Mode Andy from Black Box on the pod. So hopefully it should be a great one, that one, and then we'll keep on coming with some great episodes. But until then, have a good Game Week 5, everyone, and just make sure to not transfer out Mo Salah. Have a good one, everyone.
All right, take care.